Welcome back to another Storm Before the Calm podcast. I am your host, Lori Grace Bailey, and I am excited to bring to you my special guest, Harvard PhD candidate. Am I correct?
Yeah,
Ariana Elena Castillo. That's probably the right way to say it because we are Latinas.
love it.
Ariana, and I am so excited to have her here on the podcast. I'm really excited to bring you on. Ariana, I know you're limited on time, but thank you so much for making time for this podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm truly honored and I'm excited to chat today. So yeah, you know my name already. I'm a PhD candidate at Harvard. I'm a degreed meteorologist. I got my meteorology degree at Texas A&M in 2018. So I study the stratosphere, which is the layer above the troposphere. Think of
Mm,
it like a giant Hadley cell. So air
okay.
upwells in the deep tropics and then it downwells in the mid latitudes and the poles. And so climate models project that the way this air moves on a large scale is going to accelerate in a warming climate, but we don't have enough observations to quantify that or see if that is true. People cared about the stratosphere during the ozone hole era, but since that was solved, we don't really have a lot of consistent data and observations. So my job is looking at satellite observations of long-lived trace gases like nitrous oxide or sulfur hexafluoride, and I like to think of it as a 1,000 piece puzzle, but I have three puzzle pieces and
Goodness.
I'm kind of working with what I got. So not really meteorology anymore. So I look at like stratospheric
Really?
dynamics, chemistry, and climate trends. When I'm not doing research, I'm really obsessed with coffee and ice cream, finding Thai food.
I see that. You're a leaf
Yeah,
peeper? I mean,
yeah,
that's your
yeah.
title? Leaf peeper?
Yeah, so I like that more than storm chasing, if I'm being honest. And then I'm a proud Texan and Latina, but I'm more of an East
There you go.
Coaster now. I love being in New England, and I've kind of morphed into that. So that's kind of me in a
My
nutshell. I'm
goodness.
also a long distance runner, and I run for ice cream quite literally. I'm
Oh
trying to
my
make that
gosh.
hashtag a real thing. And
Run
so,
for ice
yeah,
cream?
yes.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'll make the hashtag, I'll sit for ice cream because that's my favorite thing. Do not get a gallon or a half gallon of Blue Bunny or what's the other one? Bluebell. Oh
Oh
my
my
gosh.
gosh,
Yeah. Let's not
yes.
talk about ice cream because I'll probably run downstairs and get some after this. But fact of the matter is, yeah, your running has been such an inspiration. In fact, it was, yeah, your study of meteorology and climatology and pursuing all of this. I'm not mathematically inclined, okay? I took pre-cal twice and I failed it twice. So, I know you got way past that. You and so many others that are so interested in it's not just you're not just fascinated by the study of it all, but you want to leave the world behind in a better way, in a better shape than it was or that it currently is. And I think that's probably the heart of why you're doing this. What led you to want to pursue this as a career?
Like meteorology, atmospheric sciences.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So
Did you
that's a
fall in love with weather when you were a little girl too in Texas looking at the clouds and all that stuff?
it's a very cliche
I know it is.
I've wanted this my whole life kind of thing. So I remember watching the Weather Channel, Weather on the 8s on Saturday mornings instead of
Yeah,
cartoons. For as long as I can remember, we'd have a bunch of severe thunderstorms growing up, and that
right.
also fascinated me. I had an obsession with rainbows in kindergarten and first grade, and so weather's just been a huge focal point in my life. And so, one of those lifelong dream things that's just always stuck with me.
But you're doing it. Here you are doing it. And it doesn't come without, some of the challenges that you've had to overcome in your entire life. But now
Yeah.
you're not letting your past dictate who you are now or even where you're going to be in the future. I think we'll get into that in just a few minutes. But so what have you actually done some really robust storm tornado chasing? Do you have a tornado count? I don't even count. I think that's silly, but
So yeah, I lived in Oklahoma during the pandemic for a little bit. So I
yeah.
saw the Lockett outbreak in April 2021. Oh my gosh, I can't believe it was that long ago. That was one of the coolest experiences in my life. I have a picture of me with one of the tornadoes behind me, and I'm smiling but also
Goodness.
crying at the same time because it was so cool. But yeah,
Same, same.
I what a storm. I don't really have a count. I've seen a handful. I really chased whenever I lived in Oklahoma and in Texas, but
Mhm.
being in New England now, I replaced storm chasing with leaf peeping
Yeah,
and
right.
going outside in the middle of a nor'easter
And
kind of thing.
running. Girl, you just posted 2, right, from this week, and so what is your average run, on an average run when you gotta get out there?
So I'm training for a marathon right now. So I mean, even outside of that, I run like 3 miles minimum. So that's kind of just my go-to. Um,
Get out, shake
yeah,
off the shoes and get a good workout in?
yeah, yeah. So
Do you feel like that's gonna be a part of something? Like, do you feel the endorphins when you start to run? Like, when you get
yeah,
out there?
yeah. So I like to run more than 3 miles because it takes me like 2 to 3 miles to warm up and feel good. So like
Yeah.
typically I like to run 4 plus because it just,
Okay.
yeah, it feels really good for me. Therapy, like my third form of therapy.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you did say you're getting ready to run a half marathon, is it? Or is it a full marathon?
A
Oh my gosh.
marathon,
6? Are you kidding me? 26
10
point what is it,
days.
2 miles?
Yeah.
Are you serious? Do you feel like you're ready for this? And how long have you been training to actually run this marathon?
I feel really ready. I ran 20 miles, not this past Sunday, but the Sunday before, and it took me about 9 miles to get warmed up and feel good, and after that, it was just I got the miles down, except for
My
the last one,
gosh.
I was holding on for my dear life, but, 20 miles is 20 miles, so I ran past my favorite ice cream shop at mile 8, and I was like, "I really want a plain waffle cone," and I was like, "Okay, I gotta get to the halfway mark," and I did the math, I was like, "Mile 12 on the way back is an out and back. I'm gonna get that cone," so
Gosh. Yeah.
I was eating just a plain ice cream cone on the trail.
That was your goal? You're like, I just need to get through this, and if I can get there, I can have
Yeah.
my ice cream?
Yeah, and then, like, that just happened, like, I was just running and I was like, I'm craving a cone," so, I
Oh my
kind of
gosh.
set that little goal for myself, like, I have to get out and finish more than half, and then I can reward myself with the plain waffle
My
cone. But,
goodness.
yeah, I feel really good. I'm in the taper zone right now, and I'm feeling really strong, really ready. I'm hungry all the time, but, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
so
that's a lot of
excited.
calories. How many calories are you gonna burn on an average marathon?
It depends.
Enough to eat an ice cream after, I'm
Yeah, I'm
sure.
gonna have so much ice cream. I'm ready. So yeah, I'm super excited. And then yeah, so I've been training since January-ish. I got really sick in December.
Okay.
I'm always in like half marathon shape. Like if someone were to ask me to run a half marathon that weekend, like I want to be able to say yes, just hypothetically. And so it didn't take too long. I
Yeah.
got injured in February, which set me back a bit, but I'm good to go now.
Wow, that's every time I see you post, I'm like, just like, yes, keep going. I started my weight. I retired last year. Started my weight loss journey because it was way overweight. You just the last few years, and
Proud of you.
if you're stressed out, but if you're stressed out, what do? What's the easiest thing to do? And you don't
Eat.
even notice. You just eat a little more.
Hmm.
It's not like when you're stressed out or when you feel like failing or you feel like a failure, what do? You just want to eat. It's not like people just immediately go to gluttony, right? It's not
Right.
like you're eating everything all at once. You're not just turning yourself to a garbage disposal. It's just a little more,
Yeah.
and it just satiates your mind, your belly, and it kind of eases the pain a little bit. And then you
Yeah.
go and you actually hit that weight loss journey, and then I had to stumble the last 3 months, and it's just like going back and forth from Texas to Arizona, and then I went back and I was like, I kinda stopped walking, I kinda stopped hiking a little bit. I still did some moderate, but it was not enough to so now here I am, like, speaking with you, like, "Okay, I can do this.
I'm so proud of
I'm
you.
I'm I'm ready to do it again."
Yeah.
It's just everything hurts. When you're in your 50s after a career in law enforcement, everything
Mhm.
hurts. But how do you push through that? The only time I finally feel it is once my feet are on, like when the dirt is crunching
Yeah.
underneath and I'm starting to break the sweat. Then I'm just like, "Ah,
Yeah.
if I had only felt that way when I first woke up, that sensation that I feel." How
Yeah.
do you push through each and every day and be consistent?
Yeah.
That's what I need.
So, I guess to rewind a bit, I also went through a weight loss journey starting in 2020. Wow, wait.
Yeah,
Yeah, 2020, I lost 80 plus pounds, and so just from that experience, I learned how to be consistent and show up, every day, and
right.
so I kind of have that same mindset when it comes to my exercise and things like that. I show up even when it's hard. I will say with the winter will run in the 5-degree weather if I absolutely have to, but I've pushed a lot of my runs in the afternoons and evenings, and, like, my non-negotiable is, "I'm going to run today." Like, this is on my docket. I don't wanna do it. There's days where I don't want to, and
Really?
I'm just like, this is in my docket, this is in my training plan, like, I show up, and just mentally, I tell myself too, I'm going to feel better mentally if I do it. If I don't do it, I'm gonna feel worse, and so, like, I
Yeah.
always feel better afterwards when I do it, and so I tell myself that every time. As for hiking the mountains,
I'm taking notes, by the way. It's
like,
just like
I always feel
mental
better
notes.
after. Like, even if I'm not feeling well, I tell myself to take a walk, like, move my body,
Yeah.
get those endorphins going. Because I tell myself
Right.
mentally, like, I'm too tired and depressed to go on a walk, and I'm like, "No," the little voice in the back of my head is like, "You always feel better after moving your body and taking care of yourself.
Absolutely.
It's self-care."
It
And
is.
so, I have a seizure disorder too, so I could be fine in the morning, run like 5 miles and be physically debilitated, but, just taking a little walk, even if it's just 5 minutes, I just always feel better. So, that's just kind of my thing. I show up.
I love
I
that.
show up.
Yeah, you show up for yourself. When I was, interviewing Paige Bertimus, Paige and Bryce, everybody knows Paige and Bryce
Yeah.
together chasing storms and everything, but she's shared about her battle with endometriosis,
Yeah.
and what she said one time or at one point, she said, Lori, I knew that nobody else was gonna be my advocate.
Yeah.
I had to advocate for myself. And so now that's like my tweet is, be your own self advocate because it's inspiring. It's really true. And that's what you're saying too, is you're telling
Yeah.
me that despite all the things that have happened in your own life and even your own weight loss journey and then some of the other things that have happened through you, here you are, like you're someone that, in my opinion, I can look up to. And I'm just so proud to be a
You
part of this, to be in, even if it's the way distant circle because you're too busy hitting the books and everything else that you're trying to do. You're running a marathon.
I'm gonna bounce off the self-advocacy thing. That's definitely been a thing
Yeah.
throughout my entire career, my PhD, things like that. I don't like to talk myself up very much, but I honestly believe that I deserve a PhD in self-advocacy,
Absolutely.
and showing up for myself, and that's really relevant, going into my PhD, and it's taking a lot longer than I planned, which is totally okay. I can go more into that later.
Yeah.
So I'll be getting the PhD next spring, 2027, and then I'm getting my master's this spring, so I'm gonna have 2
Okay.
Harvard degrees, which is really exciting. I'm psyched about it. So,
Oh my God.
yeah, a year, just
Heck
over a year,
yeah.
you'll be able to call me Dr. Castillo.
I love that. You know what? I mean, I'm just going to say this too because I'm Hispanic too. My mother was a Carmona, but God rest her soul. But Carmona, Carrillo, we've got my wife is an Hernandez. So living in El Paso, and I was born in El Paso, even though my last name is Bailey on my dad's side. But I'm just so proud to
Mhm.
see Latina men and women also rising into these fields of STEM. Also, historically that hasn't been the
Yeah,
case.
yeah,
It's so amazing that I get to know someone that's doing that
thank
too, and
you.
even myself, having spent 28 years in law enforcement, I was the first in my own family to make it to college.
Mhm,
You know how the generations, back then when my grandparents moved from Zacatecas and Mexico City to El Paso back in the 30s or 40s or
yeah,
whatever it was, 30s, I think, 1930s. Like it's crazy that they came to have a better life for us. But it's just seeing that and seeing the progression towards excellence because it's a Latina pride moment for me too. So that's
thank
another thing.
you.
Seeing you in STEM, and I want to see so many other people, not just young women too, but let's reach out to the young women out there who might be watching this and say, can I make it in STEM? Is there a place for me? What would you say to them?
Yes. Yes, there's gonna be people who doubt you. There's going to be people, from my personal experience, that are going to say that you're successful because you're a Latina, you're underrepresented, and you're a woman. And to that I say, you are
Yeah.
worthy of taking up space here. Um, you know,
Yes.
I grew up not having anyone looking like me, both in the field and in academia, and I want to be that example for other people. And so we're here, we're allowed to take up space. You work so hard to be here, and you deserve to be recognized for your achievements and hard work because it's not
Exactly.
just your identity that gets you where you are, it's you,
Yeah.
yourself. It doesn't matter what you look like or where you came from. And so, if I can do it, I still haven't dropped out yet. you can do it. And I also want to acknowledge too that the geosciences, atmospheric sciences are, I'd be remiss not to mention that we're one of the widest fields out of all the STEM fields. And so I've definitely really have been so privileged to be able to somehow navigate that and be where I am. And so, say, Bletta, you can do it. You deserve to take up
Yeah.
space. Yes. Yes.
I actually got a little teary eyed there because, in my own transition process, we have to really double down on I'm worthy to be
Yes.
here. No, it's not because of any other characteristic other than I'm worthy to be here. I'm smart enough to be here. I deserve to be here on my own merits. But everybody else will immediately try to categorize you or put you into the bucket and say, "Oh, you're here because of some other reason," and that's just
I
hogwash.
agree.
And you're proof of that. So you saying take up
Mhm.
I use that phrase commonly when I'm in those spaces when I hear so many people, especially the younger adults where they don't know. So my daughter, she's also like that as well. She left this Arizona to go to a university there, place she's never been
Yeah.
before, and so we're so
I'm
proud of
proud
her.
of her.
Another young Latina woman just doing her best to forge her own path. And when she told us that, I was just like, I don't looking in my wallet, but like whatever I have, take it. I want to support you. I want you to be successful. That's all that matters to me now. Like, but I'm just so afraid that so many younger men and women also just feels like with AI and all of the issues out there, seems like there's a big struggle there with many of the people who I speak to who are now trying to find their way in college or whatever it is they're trying to do.
Yeah.
So it's just great to hear that they belong and to hear you say that someone like yourself to tell them you can make it, you deserve to be there, you
Yeah.
belong there. It's
Yeah.
just inspiring. So yeah,
No,
sorry
it's
about the little
okay.
rant,
Yeah.
but I
I tell
love it.
myself every day, like I'm living my ancestors' wildest dreams. Like my abuelitos, like, mija, don't don't focus on boys, focus on your education and yourself. Only you can rely on yourself. And so I think about that every day. Because especially in like the
Oh,
Latino community, each generation works
yeah.
hard for their future generation, for their children. And so it's just been so cool
Mhm.
to just learn about my family history and where I am now. And I just feel this sense of pride for my family name, and so, yeah, I could go on and on about that, but
I can't wait to show my wife this particular message. She was a history teacher for almost 30 years, and a government teacher in school, and that's all she was doing is trying to be their coach,
yeah,
and so many of these kids and teens, so impactful as our teachers in this country in inspiring them. She would sometimes tell me that some of the kids would come back to her school after they've began a
yeah,
career or one of them wanted to go into the military. All these younger people, and where we lived was heavily Hispanic, so they're like, "I'm the first Latina or Latino to go to college, and it was because of you just
yeah,
believing in me."
yeah,
This is the stuff I hear, and I want people to believe.
yeah,
Ted Lasso, you know how Ted Lasso puts over the wall, over the door, it says just the word
yeah,
believe, and just helping others to believe. I'm really trying to do that with this podcast as well, and having people like yourself just come in here sharing their stories. It's we see someone on a all of a sudden get a Grammy and we think, "Oh man, they've had it easy." And nobody knows the battles that we've
yeah,
gone through to get there.
yeah,
So, you know, you, so with your marathon, your healing journey, you wrote that it's Sexual Assault
mhm,
Awareness Month, and are you trying to raise money or awareness for that? Because I want to make sure that we can promote
yeah,
that too.
so it's both. Oh man, I'm gonna try not to cry. It's such an isolating experience being a survivor, and there's just this whisper network of survivors who, you know, are kind of very closed off, and I still kind of am. I don't really go into details about my experiences, plural. It's way more common than you think. Uh, but yeah, I think it's just the marathon and the timing of Sexual Assault Awareness Month is just very uncanny. That was very unplanned, and, this is something as of late, that I really want to advocate for. I already advocate for mental health and being underrepresented in STEM, but I
Right.
think this is just something that I'm very passionate about, and I think healing and growing from sexual trauma and assault is much like a marathon, and that you have to show up every day and face it head on and process those things, go to therapy, also fight for yourself, but against your oppressor by waking up every day and
Yeah.
saying, I am badass, I am here, I'm a survivor. This
Yeah.
is me regaining my power. And so, I've ran
Right.
that race of advocating for myself in that process. And so now I want to raise awareness and run this race on behalf of not just myself, but survivors too. I'm so proud of myself for not crying.
Gosh.
But yeah, that's a big part of it.
Yeah.
Very unintentional, but when I made the connection, I was like, there's no way I can't do this for the greater good of just
Yeah.
society and survivors in
It,
general.
oh my gosh. And it comes down to, again, advocating for yourself also, but also not suffering in silence. I've used this word
Yeah,
before to describe my own path. My own path is, and, I know so many people who have also been victimized, but you're not a victim. You choose to be the warrior.
yeah,
You choose to not let that identify you. And I think that that's so important that most people, I know there are so many people that are out there who are victims to so many different things from abuse, child abuse, or
yeah,
their, gosh, you know, pick your poison basically. And every one of us there's someone out there that's willing to listen, but there's also someone out there who's been through what we've been through. Right. And we try to kind of revealing a little bit for myself too, but there are others who have been through some really terrible things as well. And people like yourself are showing up, like you said, showing up for yourself each and every day. And it's
yeah,
essential, right? It's those little things, right? It's not one big
yeah,
leap. It's every little
yeah.
step. Just like that's like your physical journey too. Was that tied into your weight gain and all of that? Did that have everything to do
Hmm.
with self-aware, self confidence and
Yeah,
self-worth? I'm assuming that that's what all ties in
yeah. So,
together.
I struggle with depression and other mental illnesses and invisible or non-apparent disabilities. I don't look disabled, but I am.
Mhm.
Depression lies. It's
Same.
deceitful. And I let that overcome me. And I wasn't choosing myself. I was not medicating. I was stubborn to not. When it comes to Latinos and mental health and mental illness, like, no, like, keep working hard, distract
Exactly.
yourself, like, poodle therapy.
I
But,
know.
we believe in La Llorona. And so, I just,
No, mija, it's fine. Don't worry about it. No, don't, let's not talk about it. Here's a beer, or the guys,
yeah,
tenga,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
Just shut up
And
and
so,
drink
yeah, I
and
was
type of thing.
drinking. I hated myself. I let that depression
Mm,
consume me. And, it takes a lot of pride, like, putting aside your pride. But I started going to therapy. I started taking medication, and a lot of that veil lifted. And I was also very difficult to be around on the internet all those years ago. I was just very black and white thinking, and there's so much nuance in
really.
the world. And I, started showing up for myself. And in that, I started showing up for other people
Hmm.
too, and, advocating for these things. So yeah, once I started addressing my mental
Yeah.
health and things like that, the whole weight loss journey, the whole
Yeah.
exercising. I was barely able to get out of a car or
Hmm.
walk a mile, and I know what that feels like,
Yeah.
and it feels awful, and now I'm like,
Wow.
I can do all of
I
these things
know.
now, and it's so cool, and I think it's just really amazing to look back at that part of my life that was really dark, but that also shaped me into the person I am today, and I don't wanna go back there, but I'm grateful
Absolutely.
for that me then because I'm me now, and so, yeah, it's very
Yeah.
interconnected, mental and physical health,
Gosh.
yeah.
I just want to let you keep talking because it's just so inspiring. Fact of the matter is, I know we only have a few minutes left as well, but what about those stumbles? What about people like myself when you stumble? I know you've probably stumbled so
Yeah,
many times and then you hit that wall like, just give up, just give up. I mean, what do you say to those? I think most of us, I don't think you're either a super winner or a super
yeah.
loser, right? I think incrementally we find ourselves finding victory, and then again, we hit that wall. Something that I'm actually going to take from what you said earlier is I'm going to schedule it. Nope, I got to get my butt up. I need to, it's going to happen. It Before anything else, this is what I've got to do. It's going to be a part of my day.
To be a bit vulnerable and not get into it, I've had every single possible thing. under the sun, like bad things happen during my PhD. And to put it in the words of my PhD cohort, I've had the worst experience in graduate school out of my cohort. And, I've shared my story
Wow.
with people, what things have happened. And the overwhelming feedback is, I
Hmm.
would have dropped out. You're so resilient. And in the thick of it, you just want to quit and you're asking yourself, wow, like
Yeah.
why you're doing this. And so many times I've had to stop myself and be like, okay, right now, this really sucks, but let me take myself out of this for just a second. And I tell myself and I ground myself, look at how far I've come. Like, look at how, despite all of these things, I'm still here and I'm in
Yeah.
it and it sucks. And also it gets better, right? And I have to tell myself that. And in the moment, I don't believe it and I don't feel that way. And I look back at things that are very
Yeah.
terrible that have happened and it has gotten better. And it doesn't mean that other things don't happen because things just crawl out of the woodwork that I don't ask for. And, also, it's not your fault. Like, no, it's not your fault. And things just happen and you have to take it in stride. And there's literally days where I take it half hour by half hour. There's so much more to me, under the titles or even, social media posts. And so, again,
Right.
it's this showing up thing. And then also one of my favorite mantras is
Yeah.
there's no growth without change and challenge. These challenges and the change in my life has made me a stronger person. And so I wake up every
Yeah.
day being like,
No,
I
it's
want
okay.
to grow and be better. And do I have good days? Yeah. Do I have really awful days? Yeah. But at the end of the day, I want to be able to say, like, here's how I've grown today as a person. Here's how, I've grown, how I've improved. And
Yeah.
that's kind of what my mindset is. And I have to tell myself that, like, it's not it's not positive all the time. I have to
Yeah.
convince myself. And so, yeah, it's not sunshine and roses, but I have
Yeah.
these mantras I say to myself over and over again in my grandma's voice, being like, Mija, you got this. Uh,
Yeah.
and so that's how I hope that answered your question.
You really did. And what you did was you created that same parallel. You're talking about getting across that bridge. To me, some of my toughest parts of my journeys, I found myself like I knew that I had to get to the other side, but it wasn't a bridge. It was more of a tunnel, right? I had to get through this tunnel. And as you start to walk into that, you're kind of walking on faith. You know that the other side, the, the promised
Yeah,
land is over there. You just know that it's better to be on that side, that you have to get there. And as I begin to walk through that tunnel, and this there's so many parallels to this and so many aspects of my life, but you go into that tunnel and I find myself I get so far into the tunnel that I turn around and it's darkness and you turn to forward
yes,
again, facing forward, and it's dark and you can't get out of that spot. And I found myself in there, and it's that is when I find myself like push through, having just like what you just
yeah,
said, to stop, understand where you're going and replant that idea that I know I just have to keep going one more day. If it's one more day or one more week or one more try,
yeah,
take that extra step. And it does come back to, advocating for yourself. Just you are worthy to be there. You deserve to be there. And, just keep going because it does get better. I know for those of you who don't know about the LGBTQ project, it gets better. Go to itgetsbetter.org and you can read a lot about that
yeah,
as well. And that's just something I love hearing people say it does get better. And yes, we're all going to have bad days. What kind of advice would you give to someone who is just they're barraged with this onslaught of, hey, you have to worry about this. You have to worry about the weather drama of someone doing X, Y, and Z because, he live streamed this and how dare he? Let's all be warriors and let's all participate instead of taking a pause. I call it the tactical pause to engage this critical
hmm
situation for a minute. I can stop, rethink about what I'm going to do, and then make the right decision that I think is best. But what would you say to those? There's so many of us, especially
yeah,
the youth. And I'm talking to little Ariana Elena as well. And, those others who are the little Ariana
yeah.
Elenas.
I think the first big step is accepting the fact that there are things that are out of your control. And I'm a chronic warrior and
Yeah.
warrior. And I talk to my father about this,
Yeah.
my dad all the time. He's like, Mija, because I get caught in this too, this cycle of worry and spiraling with anxiety. He's like, Mija, you can't control this. And so what I do is, there's so much energy that goes into worrying and being anxious about things. And I mean, I have generalized anxiety disorder, so there's just, I can't control that sometimes, and therapy and medication helps, but I tell myself that, like, I can't control this. Like, I don't want to waste this energy on being worried. I want to put this energy towards something that
Yeah.
I can control. Like, how can I react to this? There's this drama on weather Twitter. I could just close the app and go for a walk, go on a run, watch a TV show, bake something, talk to a friend, just things going on in graduate
Yeah.
school with interpersonal things. I can't control how this person is responding, but I can reach out to other resources and people to figure out how to navigate this, And so I try to reframe it like, even with interpersonal things, with people in my life, I can't control some things sometimes, but I can reach out to others or even my therapist being like, how
Right.
can I handle this? Or for me, I was injured recently. I'm like, I can't control my injury, but I can focus on my nutrition. I can focus on resting and doing rehabilitation exercises and strength training, and my body will take care of the rest. So my mantra here is I can't control this, but let me use that energy that would go into the worry and anxiety around that towards things that I can control to help mitigate the
Mm,
situation or for me to process or understand the situation for what it is. That's what I do. And I wish I knew that a
right.
very long time ago. Just accepting the fact that sometimes life sucks, but
I
let
love
me
that.
let me redirect this to things that can fill me with joy and give me a sense of purpose.
I like that. And it's not embracing the suck, it's embracing the what you're in control of, embracing the grabbing the wheel, whatever you can do
Yeah.
to guide that path. I love that. But what's next for you?
Yeah.
What's next for Ariana? What's coming up here and
I love that question. Also, yeah,
sorry. Yeah.
please let's
Yeah.
sit down and chat again. Well, this is kind of answering your question. Well, I really this summer after the marathon, I really want to run to New Hampshire from my house. It's only like 33 miles.
Oh my gosh.
So that's a really big goal I have.
It's doable?
I'm trying to get my first manuscript out. It's on preprint and I got my first peer review recently, but that's been in the works for a very long time for, again,
Sweet.
reasons that are outside of my control, but I've navigated it to where,
Having your
Steel et
name though in a
al. It's just for
publication?
me, it's just so beautiful. And so that's what's going
Yeah.
on. I'm gonna chill for a bit this summer, go hiking. I'm hoping to hike all 48 of the New Hampshire.
Good.
I don't know if I'll get that done this summer, but I really want to focus on that. um, and work on my second manuscript. So yeah, just doing things that fill me up and bring me joy, I think. And then I'm running a trail race in October and planning on running a half marathon in November. So yeah, it's staying really busy.
Pedal to the metal. What is up with you? Like full gas, no brake. What's up with that? I think the best thing is it's just been such an inspiration hearing how you are believing in yourself, you're believing in your dreams, and you're giving it all you got. And you're finding yourself worthy after all of those years of living
hmm
and believing the lies, right? That the final thing is
Yeah,
what did you
I'm
want to
gonna
say
be
to her?
extremely vulnerable. So I had a suicide attempt back in 2018, and around early October every year, I do something for myself to remind myself, I'm grateful to be alive. And I had one of these just out of body spiritual experiences when I went on a hiking trip in New Hampshire during peak fall foliage, because that's also what I'm going to be doing later this year. It's my storm chasing. I was on this trail on the side of a mountain, and the fall foliage was under me. It was beautiful. And I remember just stopping and being like, me 8 years ago wouldn't have been able to see this and wouldn't have known that this has existed. And there is so much to life, so many beautiful things ahead of you that you don't even know or can possibly fathom yet. And just waking up each day, that's survival and that's you fighting for yourself. And it does get better. Like, it's so hard to not see that and you don't believe it. But waking up each day is yourself fighting to be better and for it to get better. And so, there's so much strength, perseverance, and diligence from that. And, I also wish I could have told myself that you're going to learn to love yourself. Just hang in there just a bit longer. And so, um, yeah, I just think even on really bad days I've had very recently, I just remember I ground myself with that moment of sitting at the side of that mountain and being like, I couldn't have possibly fathomed this would have been my life, you know? And, you know,
This
so
moment.
that's kind of where I'm at. And
Yeah.
I try to ground myself with those things. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
thank you so much for sharing that because, I had that moment last year when everybody told me to go south from Amarillo and I chose to go north to this mushy or cold, outflow boundary that ended up sparking. I got to be one of the, like maybe a handful of people that saw this really beautiful tornado over on the Texas Oklahoma border. But I had that same moment too. Like if I had just given up back then, would you know, I would never have been able to see this me and this German couple. We're like couldn't even speak the language, but we
Yeah.
spoke the language. We're both just 30 minutes as this thing danced. And for me, Tim Samaris's words, his just focus on your passion and keep at it. You'll get there someday. I'm doing it.
Yeah.
That whole thing, just if I had given up, or sometimes there are people in our lives that we don't really listen to,
Yeah.
but they didn't give up on us as well. And I would just encourage people to, if there are people in your life and they're not quitting on you, don't quit on yourself also, but
Exactly.
listen to them and reach out and reach out to that lifeline. And myself too, I want people to know if they need help or if they need someone to talk to. My DMs are open and
Yeah.
reach out. So
I could talk to you forever.
I'm just so grateful, and I just wanted to say I'm so grateful that you
Me too.
didn't make that decision back then. That I'm so grateful that
Thank
you're
you.
here is what I wanted to say, and I'm so grateful to get this
Yeah.
opportunity. So, thank you so much, Ariana, and I'm looking forward to calling you Dr. Castillo. That's proud from one proud Latina to the other. I'm looking forward to that day, and
Yeah.
so let's have you
Yeah,
back here
summer's
sometime when
gonna
you're not so
chill like,
busy. Is
after
that is
May,
that
it's
is
just
that a
gonna
deal?
chill out a lot, so I'd love to chat with you more about just what I could talk to you forever, to be honest.
And I know. And hopefully I'll be a little better along in my journey and I can give you a progress update. That's my commitment is the next time we chat, I want to give you a progress update
I
of
would
my
love
own
that. I would
fitness
absolutely love
journey.
that. That's
So
something you can work towards.
is
Yeah.
that a deal?
Yeah.
You can hold me
Set
to
a
it.
goal. Yeah, everyone set a
Exactly.
goal for yourself. Yeah, like
Accountability.
accountability.
There
Also,
you
like,
go.
sorry, last words. There's power in community. Like, you don't have to do this alone. It is okay to ask for help. People in your life love you and care about you and want to make sure you are successful and you thrive too. And so, having accountability partners, for example, or, just calling a friend or, yeah, Twitter
Yeah.
DMs, like, people love you and care about
Right.
you, and again, you waking up every day, even when you don't want to, is success. That's you fighting and for yourself, and so,
Yeah.
anyway, I'm proud of you. If you're anybody who's going through anything difficult, invisible battles, because we all have invisible battles that we can't
Yeah.
see, know that I'm so proud of you and, like, you're fighting for
Right.
yourself, and, like, that is such a big deal. That is such a big deal.
Absolutely. Honestly. Well, you're so for those of you who have gotten this far, I just want to thank you for Lori and Ariana's therapy session, and I hope you you also took part in this communal therapy session because that's what this was. It really was, and I know we didn't touch too much on your research and what you're moving towards, but that's okay too. How can people find you finally so we can get you
Yeah,
out of here and back
sorry,
to
I'm getting
everything else you're
slower this
supposed to be
week.
doing?
So yeah, you can find me on the Twitter.
That's right.
My handle is at Ariana or Ariana Elena and then 97. So my first and middle name are down there and then
Seven.
97. I'm also on Instagram as that. LinkedIn if you're really into that. I'm also on Strava if you want to follow me on Strava. But yeah, that's a great way to contact me. Um, my Harvard bio is also a link in my bio, and then shameless plug, I'm fundraising for a foundation called No More. They support survivors and other
Yeah.
organizations who are survivors of sexual assault and violence.
Right. It doesn't
Same
matter
race,
if you're
everyone.
first or last
Same race.
place.
Doesn't matter how fast or slow you go.
So
That's for life too. For life.
there you go.
So thank you, Lori.
Thank you so much
Thank you for having
again. One
me.
more time. Thank you for having me here. Well, that's going to wrap it up here, everybody. I want to just point you to all of the sources that are helpful out there. What Adiana said is is so important to advocate for yourself, to take up space. You deserve to take up space. You belong your space wherever that is, whether it's in the weather community, whether it's in the STEM field, whether you're moving towards a degree or whatever it is. Everybody belongs in the place that we want to be at. I always end it like this, but I always want to end it with shine your light while you still have this. So we will see you all again at the next one. Thanks, everybody.